Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning with Jelly. Today is day 11 of our 30-day SQL challenge, where we're going to talk about how we can use aggregate functions in SQL. Now, if you've never heard of the term aggregate, fear not. It is a very simple concept that we are going to talk about in this presentation. So, our agenda for today is that we are going to talk about some of the common aggregate functions like sum, count, average, etc. And then we're going to hop right into SQLite Studio to practice. I want to do a lot more practice in this video than going through slides, since you will have the documentation to look up any aggregate function that you want to use. So, if you're new to the 30-day challenge, welcome. The goal of this challenge is to work for 30 days, preferably straight. I know consistency is very, very tough, but we got this. On learning beginner to intermediate SQL skills that you can apply to projects and in turn land an entry level data role. I have two QR codes on my screen, so feel free to scan those. If not, the links will be in the description below. On the left hand side is the topic list, which lists out the topics for the 30 days, as well as supplemental resources to help you practice or learn concepts. And on the right hand side is a Facebook support group where you can go into a chat, ask questions about the videos, give feedback, find a study buddy, work on projects together, and more. Keep in mind when you're in the Facebook chat, I want to empower you to try to troubleshoot your code. Do not underestimate the power of Google and AI to help you troubleshoot your code. And if you still can't figure it out, feel free to ask questions because we're here to support one another. So, what are aggregate functions in a nutshell? Aggregate functions are functions that return a single value for an entire data table or a single value for each individual group. And I'm going to introduce the group by clause as a sneak peek at the end of the video. So, pretty much an aggregate function, if you want to get accounts of the number of rows in your data, it's going to return one value. If you want to get the sum of a column from your data, it's going to return one value. If you want to get the average of a column in your data, it's going to return one value. So it's like rolling up all of the rows or scanning all of the rows to get out one value. And this is great when we're exploring data and getting quick summary statistics, which can be powerful. So, if you have a report or anything like that, or you have a data table and you need things like counts, minimums, maximums, averages, etc., this is a great way to get that information. So, one of the most common aggregate functions that people do is the select count star. And what this select count star is just a count of all the rows in a table. So, in this case, I'm using my select count star. In my alias, I'm alienating this column to be total tracks. And it's going to give me the amount of rows that exist in my tracks table. It's going to give me one value out. The sum is pretty self explanatory. It's going to sum up a numeric column. Make sure that our data is numeric. So, we talked about data types in day 2 or day 3. Make sure that you have things like integers and floats. You're going to sum up the numeric column. And then this is going to give us the total amount of milliseconds across all of our tracks in the track table. An average will also be used on a numeric column and give us the same information, which is the average milliseconds across all of our tracks in the track table. So let's just go and practice some of these aggregate functions. And there's a whole ton of aggregate functions that you can practice with. I highly encourage you to really just Google some more aggregate functions, practice, play around with it. That's how you learn. So our first question today is get the total invoice amount for California. So in this case, I'm using my invoices table. The total invoice amount is going to be in this column total here. I'm going to quickly just look at the data first. This is something that I always love to do. So I'm going to select star from invoices. It automatically knows that I'm on my Chinook database. And then I'm going to limit to 5 rows. And this limit clause is only going to return the first 5 rows. That way I'm not reading in all the data, which is great when you are like reading in a whole bunch of data. And let me go ahead and get this back. Great. So in this case, I see the total column. I also see the billing state column. And I happen to know that the billing state column is two letters. So California should be represented by CA. So let's go ahead and do this. If you want to practice on your own, feel free to pause the video. But I'm going to get started. So the total invoice amount. In order to get a total, we would need to use a sum. So I'm going to do select sum of total. And I'm going to use an alias here. And I'm going to say invoice total. And then I'm going to do from the invoices table where billing state, and we talked about the where clause, so we're just adding this here for extra practice, equals CA. So this should be able to give me the total number of invoices in that particular state. And I see it's about 116. Awesome. So now I want to get the count of invoices from New York. So I want to know how many invoices are tied to the state of New York. So I just want to get a count. So I'm going to select count asterisk because it's just going to count up my rows. I'm going to say as num of New York invoices to make it more descriptive from the invoices table. And we still need that filter again, right? So where billing state is equal to New York. And here I see in my data, I have 7 invoices that are actually coming out of New York. So if I'm working with a manager and they're like, hey, I'm the New York manager or I'm a certain regional manager, can you tell me how many invoices I have in the system to make sure that it matches with what I have? You can quickly get that information. So as you're going through these questions, try to ask yourself a real world problem that you probably could apply this to. It really does help. Now I want to get the number of invoices, not for just New York, but I want to get the number of invoices for every state that I have in my SQL table. Now, this is where I'm going to introduce the group by clause, where we can group by a variable. And because we want to get a count by every state, it's not going to just return one number, but one number for each state. So I still want to select count. And let's make this more general as an alias. I'm just going to put num of invoices. Still working from the invoices table. And I'm going to say group by, no filter here. And I'm going to group by billing state. And I'm actually going to add the billing state in front of this so it actually returns the state in my view so I know the count and what the state was. So now I'm going to highlight this. And here I see that I have 202 invoices not attached to a state, which is very, very interesting to me. But if I scroll down, I can get the total number of invoices in the state that it corresponds to with this nice little group by statement. So this is an awesome way to get quick aggregate information or summary statistics broken out by a categorical variable. So make sure when you're grouping by, you're not grouping by customer ID necessarily or something that's very granular like invoice ID, better yet. Customer ID might not matter. But if it's a unique invoice number for every row, the count is just going to be 111111111. So make sure you have some type of categorical variable that you want to group by. All right, so that was a nice short video for us today. Please look at more documentation about other aggregate functions you can use. Try using the min function to get the minimum total invoice that you have, or the max function, and share those new functions that I haven't presented in this video in the Facebook chat group, which I'm going to link below. Please also check out my Etsy shop that has fun data nerd t-shirts, especially about SQL, as well as buy me a coffee. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you on day 12. Bye-bye.